Happy Sunday morning, you guys, or as always, whatever day, whatever time of day you happen to be watching this video, all I care about is the fact that you are here and you have chosen to spend a little bit of your day with us and me, Miss Felicia, here at St. Francis for this week's Sunday school video. So we are going to jump right in. We are still focusing on examples of compassion in the New Testament. So in the New Testament, when we're talking about a compassion, a lot of these stories involve our cool friend Jesus. So it's awesome to get to share these stories with y'all and to keep growing and learning all about the really cool, beautiful, compassionate things that Jesus did while he was a human here on earth with us a little bit of a long time ago. So again, thank you for watching, and let's jump into today's lesson together. So today we are going to be listening to a story about when Jesus healed a man who had been pretty sick for a pretty long time. So this man had been sick for around 38 years. That's older than me. That's older than all of y'all. That's older than some of your parents. This man had been sick for 38 years, and Jesus chose a pretty interesting day to heal this man. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. We are going to listen to this story that comes from our friend Jesus, and we are going to use that story to learn about how sometimes we have to break a couple rules in order to show compassion and to be the best human beings that we know to be. Sometimes we have to break a couple rules to help a person in need. So no, a takeaway from this lesson is not, Miss Felicia told me I'm allowed to break rules. Today we are going to use this story to talk about when it's appropriate to kind of bend some rules and break some rules in Jesus's name. Big difference, so stay with me there. We're going to explore some ways that, rules can keep us from doing God's work in the world, and how we as Christians and just as followers of Christ can deal with that and handle those rules. And we're going to imagine ways that we might be compassionate to other people, even if we feel like the world is telling us it's the wrong way to do it. We're going to talk more about all of that. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of a preview on what we're going to be discussing this day. So since today's story contains ways that Jesus is asked to follow rules, I want to give you guys an opportunity to play a game with me. This is going to be our movement activity for this week, so I invite you guys to stand up with me now. Before we jump into this game or this activity, I want to give you all a chance to move around a little, so stand up with me and let's take our tippy fingers and let's reach them all the way to the sky. Really reach for the sky. Feel that stretch in your back, just kind of stretch it all around. And then I want you to take the tippies of your fingers and reach them down all the way to your toes. Let's stretch together. Feel that stretch in your back. Reach down to those toes. And then slowly stand up with me and round our backs. It just feels good to get a nice little stretch out. So any excuse to stretch, I'm here for. And then my favorite part of movement time that we're going to do together. Maybe this was a hard week for some of y'all, all right? Maybe you're carrying some of that with you. Maybe this was a really beautiful, awesome week, and you're so excited about what a great week you had. Either way, we are going to take 10 seconds of our wiggle movement time. So you know what I always say during this 10 seconds. If you've had a beautiful week and you're just so excited about how awesome your week was, wiggle and move with us to show us how excited you are. If you had kind of a negative week and there's some stuff you just want to shake off, this is your chance to shake it off with your family and with your community, okay? So I'm going to count to 10, and I want to see you wiggle. I want to see you shake. I want to see you freestyling some moves. I just want you moving for 10 seconds, okay? So on your mark, get set, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Shake it all out. Good job, you guys. So now that we got some wiggles out of our system. We've got some movement out of the way. I'm gonna invite you guys to keep standing with me because we are about to talk about a game that I have a good feeling most of you have played at some point in your life. So the game that we are going to talk about today is Simon Says. So you all know how to play Simon Says. I'm Simon in this example. If we were in person, I would let you guys, take turns being Simon. But for the sake of leading a video, I'll be Simon. And you guys know how Simon Says works. If I say Simon Says and then you do something, then you do it. You mimic what I'm doing. But if I don't say Simon Says and you still do it, you're out. So we are going to talk about how this story can kind of apply to the game Simon Says. But before we do that, we got to play Simon Says first. So I invite you guys to keep standing with me. Okay, and then I'm wondering, let's see. Simon says, touch your nose. Good job, you guys. Simon says, put both hands on your head. Simon says to meow like a cat. Meow, 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 meow. Stop meowing. Meow, meow, meow. Did you stop meowing? If you did, you're out. I didn't say Simon Says. Can't stand when that happens. Okay, next one. Simon says to touch your shoulders. Simon says to place a hand over your heart. Simon says to cover your eyes. Now uncover your eyes. I didn't say Simon Says. If you uncovered them, you're out. Oh, I'm so sorry. So you guys get it. That is how you play Simon Says. So please feel free to take a seat and let's calm our bodies down a little bit as we jump into today's lesson. So the reason I wanted us to start off playing Simon Says together is because sometimes life, right, can kind of feel like it's this big set of rules that we have to follow. Like there's this big set of rules that we're supposed to live by in our lives, right? Sometimes we feel that, just like with Simon Says. It's somebody giving you a bunch of instructions, and if you do one little thing wrong, you're like out of the game. Sometimes life can kind of feel like that, right, guys? So in Jesus's time, there were lots of rules that Jewish people were supposed to follow, and these rules were called the law. So they sound kind of important, right? And since Jesus was Jewish, those were the rules that he learned. He grew up living by the law. So Jesus often confused and frustrated the people around him because Jesus sometimes would question the law that he had been taught. And this frustrated the people around him. They were like, stop questioning our laws. This is what we do. But here's the thing, is when Jesus was questioning these laws, it was because he was trying to help other people, and he felt like some of these rules were kind of getting in the way of that. So we are going to talk a little bit more about that through today's story, which in scripture you can find in John 5 verses 1 through 9. We are going to read it through this story together twice because it's not very long, so I want you guys to listen closely, okay? John 5, 1 through 9 says, At a festival the Jewish people were observing, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In that city, by the sheep gate, there is a pool. Its Hebrew name is Bethzatha, which has 5 entry spaces. People who are blind or very sick or cannot move gather in those spaces by the pool. One man was there who had been ill for almost 40 years. Jesus saw this man lying there and knew that he had been lying there for a long time. Jesus said to the man, "Do you want to be made well?" The man explained, "Sir, I'm alone. There is no one who will put me into the pool where the healing water is stirred up. When I try to get down there on my own, I'm too slow. Someone else steps down ahead of me." Jesus says to the man, "Stand up, grab your mat, walk." The man did what Jesus said that he could do. He was healed. This happened on a Sabbath day. So I'm going to read through that story one more time, and I want you guys to really listen to some very important clues here. So at a festival the Jewish people were observing, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In that city, in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there is a pool. The pool has 5 entry spaces. People who were blind, people who were very sick, people who could not move would gather in those spaces to try to get healed in the pool. One man was there, and this man had been sick for, remember, 38 years, almost 40 years. Jesus saw the man lying there and knew that he had been lying there for a long time. Jesus said to the man, "Do you want to be made well?" The man explained to Jesus, "Sir, I'm all alone. There is no one who will put me into the pool where the healing water is. When I try to get down there on my own, I'm too slow. Someone always steps ahead of me." So Jesus says to the man, "Stand up, grab your mat, and walk." And the man did what Jesus said he could. He was healed. This happened on a Sabbath day. So guys, to give you a really quick definition, so Sabbath days back in Jesus' time were extremely, extremely respected days. So on the Sabbath day, the law, kind of like what we talked about, Jewish people observe the law, the rules they were taught growing up. The law said that on the Sabbath day, you rested. You did not do anything. You weren't supposed to do anything. You were supposed to observe the Sabbath, which is like a fancy way of saying you were just supposed to get your rest and make sure that you were refilling your own cup so you could help other people. So that's what Sabbath is. And so Jesus choosing to heal a very sick man on a Sabbath day was actually kind of a controversial decision that got a lot of people stirred up and talking. So to make sure you guys really understand the story, we are going to come back to our weekly story cards and we're going to put the plot together to make sure you guys understand all the key parts of this story. So our first story card today says, the sick man explains to Jesus that he cannot get to the healing water alone. This definitely doesn't happen first. And the ending to the story is happier than this. So this might be what happens in the middle of the story, I'm thinking. So let's place that there. Let's see what happens next. This card says, Jesus asks a sick man if he wants to be made well. Well, that kind of sounds like the beginning of the story, right? That's how this whole thing started. Jesus sees the man lying there and says, do you want to get better? Do you want to be healed? So I think this might be our first story card. Let's put it there to see if it makes sense. And then our last story card says, Jesus invites the man to stand and walk, and he does. So that kind of sounds like our happy ending, right? So let's put that story card last. Okay. So the basic plot we have worked out here together says, Jesus asks a sick man if he wants to be made well. The sick man explains to Jesus he can't get to the healing waters all by himself. And then the man says, the story says, Jesus invites the man to stand and walk, and he does. Great job, you guys. Those are the basic plot points of the story. I think you're getting it. That's exciting. So now that we really understand the story together, and with a little bit of the context I gave you about this whole thing taking place on a Sabbath day and how back in Jesus' time, doing anything, especially healing a 40-year sick man on a Sabbath day, was kind of frowned upon. But we're going to explore that a little bit together through imagining together with some questions. So imagine Jesus hanging out with a bunch of people who didn't feel well. Why do you guys think Jesus wanted to do that? I mean, Jesus went to this pool knowing this is a pool where really sick people go to be sick and hope to be healed. Why do you guys think Jesus wanted to be surrounded by sick people? Maybe Jesus wanted to be around the people that he thought needed him most. Maybe Jesus was trying, like we said earlier, maybe Jesus kind of knew what was going to happen at that pool and was trying to let people know sometimes we have to bend rules, even Sabbath day rules, in order to do the right thing. Maybe because we know Jesus was put here on earth to undo things that were considered evil or bad, and sickness is kind of bad. So maybe Jesus knew, I need to go undo some sickness and show people that that's not from God. There could be a bunch of different reasons why we think Jesus chose to hang out at the pool that day. So the next question is, Jesus was in Jerusalem for a special religious holiday, but instead of focusing on the festival he was there for, he was interested in being with people who needed to be healed. How do you think that choice, this is a deep question, I'll be real honest with you, how do you think that choice shows the true meaning of our faith? So again, we're recognizing that Jesus technically broke a rule. He went to Jerusalem for the Jewish festival, but instead went to the pool where he knew people needed to be healed. How does that choice that Jesus made show the true meaning of our faith? Well, it could show it in a lot of different ways. I think this was Jesus's way of saying sometimes the right thing to do isn't always gonna follow every single rule that's been put out for us. I think that it shows the true meaning of our faith that other people come before ourselves, right? Jesus could have gone on to that Jewish festival and celebrated with his family and his friends and had a good old time and not given a second thought to the people nearby that needed healing. But he's Jesus. So I feel like he got there and he was like, yeah, this festival's cool, but there's literally a whole pool of people over there that need to see some miracles happen. And that's kind of what he was there for. So that's a valid possibility, I think. So I want you guys to think, what does that choice of Jesus choosing to go to the healing pool instead of to the Jewish festival, how does that kind of reflect our faith as we're discovering what our faith means to us? And the next question, now again, these questions are getting a little deeper, so that's why I'm talking through them with you, but imagine how it feels to be healthy again after you've been sick for just a couple days. So let's say, think about it. We've all had like a cold. We've all been sick somehow, whether you had a nasty tummy bug or you had a cold and you felt like you couldn't breathe or taste anything. So imagine, you know how good you feel when you've been sick in bed for a couple days and then your parents are suddenly like, you can get up and play again, and you're just like, hallelujah, I'm not sick anymore. So think about that and then wonder how amazing it felt for this man who had been sick for not a couple days, but 38 years to suddenly feel good as new again. How amazing do you think that man felt? And how would you have responded to Jesus's healing of him? I would have been like, awesome, Jesus. That was cool. That man was clearly very sick. Thank you for healing him. Right? I feel like right off the bat, you automatically think this is a positive. This is a good thing that Jesus did. He healed a man who had been sick for a very long time. I would be like, go Jesus, ready to throw him a party. So how would you have responded to Jesus healing a man that had been sick for 38 years? And our next question is, Jesus's decision to heal this man, remember, was a direct breaking of religious rules at that time. Remember, you weren't supposed to do anything on the Sabbath, and Jesus healed a man. So how do you imagine Jesus felt with this conflict between following the rules he had grown up being taught, but yet wanting to help this man that was clearly in need? What do you think helped give Jesus the courage and wisdom to choose as he did? So let's break it up a little bit. The first question, how do you imagine Jesus felt with this conflict between following the rules he had been taught growing up and yet wanting to help this man in need? I'm sure Jesus, he was human while he was here on earth, right? And he felt everything we feel. I'm sure he felt that conflict, and I'm sure he felt a little torn, right? Maybe. I don't know. You guys were all wondering in this together. I could imagine though, that Jesus felt torn, right? He wanted to respect the law. He wanted to respect these rules that his parents and his family and religious leaders had set out for him. He knew that's what he was told was right and wrong. But he also had the heart of Jesus, the heart that wanted to heal people and make a difference. So I'm sure seeing that man lying there needing to be healed, of course he wanted to heal them, but I'm sure in the back of his head he was like, but I've also been taught I'm not supposed to do things like that on the Sabbath day. So I'm sure he felt that conflict, right? Of kind of like, what exactly is right and wrong here? And then what do you think helped give Jesus the courage and wisdom to choose to heal this man even on the Sabbath day? I think, and remember, this is us imagining together, so I want you guys to imagine your own answers too, but I think what maybe gave Jesus the courage that day was God, right? His Father. Jesus knew what God had set him here on earth to do, right? To follow God's word. And so if Jesus knew this is what God would want me to do, even if it isn't necessarily what some people here on earth want me to do, maybe that's what gave him the courage of just knowing, like, God set me here to do God's work, and this is a part of it. Like I said, he had to bend a couple rules to get there. It's a little dicey, but we're talking through it together. So the next question says, rules can be more than just policies at schools, at your churches, etc. Sometimes rules come in the form of peer pressure or expectations that our friends maybe put on us. So are there some social rules that you sometimes question or push up against? I'm wondering if there are rules that you feel like have kind of been placed in your life and you're like, I don't really know if that's my kind of rule. I don't really know about that scene. Let's think. I'm wondering, can I think of any social rules that I sometimes want to push up against or question? Yeah, I question a lot of social rules. I'm not going to lie. That's something Miss Felicia has to use a lot of discernment and wisdom in. I question a lot of rules that have been like socially placed in our lives. I don't question rules at work or school, and you guys shouldn't either, and you shouldn't question all of your parents' rules, but sometimes questioning rules is a good thing because it's how we get to healthier solutions, right? Instead of just breaking rules and not talking about it, we can push up against and question these rules and see what kind of results we could get. So I'm trying to think of like one social rule that I really question or break up against. I'm kind of on Jesus's side with this story personally. I think, that's a rule I would be comfortable questioning, right? Like, I understand that Sabbath day is important. I understand rest. And guys, believe me, the older you get, you will feel this in your bones. Rest is so important. I don't think anybody is trying to disvalue that statement. Rest is so important and so needed to refill your cup so that you can pour out to other people. But if it's my rest day and I see a man laying there who clearly needs some help, it doesn't feel right to kind of walk away from him and be like, sorry, it's my rest day. So that's a social rule that I would have felt comfortable joining Jesus and pushing or questioning. And then our last question is, can you remember a time that you had to break a rule in order to do the kind or loving thing? What was the outcome, and was it worth breaking that rule? Ooh, that is a deep question. I don't know if you guys will have an example of that. If you do, awesome. I want you to share it with the people around you. I want you to share it with someone. I want us to think through it together. I'm trying to think of an example. When is a time that I broke a rule to do the right thing? Well, let me think. I remember one time in high school, I had a friend who had gotten into some trouble and she wasn't feeling well and she really needed to go get help. But she was afraid to tell her parents that she needed to go get help. And so I remember I went and picked her up and took her to I took her to the doctor that she needed to go to. And technically I broke a rule because I was out past curfew, the rule that my parents set, which curfew is important. Respect curfews as you get older. Again, I'm not saying to break a rule. But I did have to miss curfew by a few minutes in order to go help my friend and be that person she needed. And so the outcome was of that situation, I communicated with my parents about the rule that I needed to bend a little bit, which, guys, please remember that in the future. If you have to consider bending a rule to do the right thing, communicating through it will solve a lot of problems. Don't try to do it all on your own. Share it with the people around you. I communicated with my parents that I needed to bend that rule a little bit, but it was for an emergency and it was something that I felt was very important for my friend. And we all kind of worked through it together. My parents spoke to her parents to make sure everything was okay and to make sure the right people knew what they needed to know. And was it worth it? Yeah, because in that moment, my friend just needed somebody to kind of forget the rules and just help her and focus on her. And I wanted to be the best friend I could to her. And so in that moment, yeah, breaking the rules was worth it because I got to go to bed that night knowing that my friend was safe and that everybody involved was safe and that things were going to be okay. So that's kind of an example of sometimes we have to bend rules, we have to do things a little differently in order to do the right thing, the thing that our hearts tells us is the right thing to do. But I'll just give you guys a hint. Communicating with people while you're having to bend some of those rules, communicating with your parents that those rules maybe need to be bent a little bit, it'll save you a lot of time. Just trust Miss Felicia in that. So that was the end of our questions today. Like I said, there were a lot and they got kind of deep because, again, I don't want you guys to think I'm telling you to go break rules. Miss Felicia is not telling you that. Follow rules. Rules keep us safe, and your family gives you rules because they love you. So respect those rules. But sometimes rules don't always perfectly line up with doing the right thing. And again, when that happens, it's okay. But if you communicate with your family and the people that have set those rules forth that, you need to do something a little different, it'll be easier. Just trust me. Okay. So this week's compassion in action. I say, it's one thing for us to sit here and learn these stories. It's a completely different thing for us to go out in the world and do something with these stories that we're learning. So this week's compassion in action homework is I am telling y'all that if the weather allows, which don't worry, I already checked the weather and there are plenty of beautiful days coming up. If the weather allows, I want you guys to spend as much time as possible outdoors this week. I want to see y'all outside. I want to see you loving on Mother Nature. I want to see y'all having a good time in the fresh outdoors. And all that you're going to need for this activity is some bird seed and some simple containers that can be hung up. You can even use an old milk jug and some string. And I think, so we often think of the rules for church. We think that some of the rules that maybe you guys feel like you experience at church are that you have to be inside the sanctuary to worship, that you have to sit quietly in a pew to worship God, or you have to close your eyes when you pray, or you have to be completely silent all the time to understand what's going on. But guys, I actually think one of the best ways, especially for y'all as younger people, one of the best ways that y'all can love God and we can love God together is to be outside where we experience God in all kinds of different ways and we get to care for all of God's creatures. And y'all get to be loud and run around and do whatever you want safely. So just as Jesus wasn't super focused on the religious festival at hand, but instead on the people that needed his touch, you can help the children be channels of God's grace to birds, squirrels, other creatures, by just helping God feed some animals. So spend some time outside this week, set up a cute bird feeder, do a pine cone covered in peanut butter and then put birdseed on it. I used to do that all the time. Hang it up in a tree and literally just do some bird watching or see if the squirrels come and try to take some of the seed from the birds. The circle of life is fun to watch. Okay, I want you guys to spend some time outdoors this week and see how you can experience worshiping God in so many different ways that don't include sitting quietly in a church pew. That is your homework for this week. That is your compassion in action assignment. So y'all, I am going to close us up in prayer. Thank you for diving into this deeper lesson with me today. As always, these pages got sent out. Feel free to color them, put the story together on your own at home. This other really fun coloring sheet also got sent out. It's the man celebrating after he got healed, because I'd be celebrating if I had been sick for 40 years and I was suddenly healed. So it's a little coloring sheet of that, and you're more than welcome to color it and reflect on all of the things we talked about today. And I am going to close us in prayer really quickly. So pray with me, you guys. Dear God, thank you for our story this morning and helping us to think about what rules are really important. Help us to first be compassionate and caring, even if we feel pressured by rules or by those around us to not be. Teach us how to listen to your guidance in our lives above all the other voices. Amen. All right, guys, so like I said, thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with me today. I hope you got something out of this lesson. As always, because I know these questions got pretty deep, if I didn't explain something well enough, or if I said something and you just thought to yourselves, what? And you have questions, or you just need something explained better, your family knows how to get in touch with me, and all lines of communication are always open just to talk through whatever y'all need/want to talk through, or to show me y'all's coloring pages or some of the cool work you're doing. I want to see it, virtually or in person, whatever. I just want to see y'all and hear from y'all, so always feel free to do that. And until then, I love you guys so, so, so much. I miss the ones of you I haven't got to see in person quite yet. So much. And I cannot wait until we can all gather in community again. But until then, I'm so thankful that we get to do it this way. So I hope you all have a great week. I will see you next Sunday for another Sunday School episode. Make good choices, love and be loved, be good for your families, because I'm asking you politely too. And I hope you all just have the best week, and I will check in with y'all later. Bye.